The United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord.
The IPCC report is the most accurate assessment we have of the latest climate
Human
science.
activities are responsible for climate change.
You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words.
More carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and as that increases, so has warming. And the report.
If we continue on our current path, we will face the collapse of everything.
Hello everyone and welcome to our Strode Creative Media podcast. I'm here with Isaac, Sam and Joel, and today we're talking about climate anxiety and how it affects the youth of today and people in general. And we got some fact or fiction, we got Vox Pops, we got a guest interview, and just going to be a conversation about the climate. And starting off with our first question for you, Sam, do you believe that the older generation have ruined our future?
Partially I do, yeah, because obviously they were here before us. But then equally, you can't really fully blame them because at the time they didn't know what damage they were doing to the world. So I guess technically they are, yeah, but they aren't fully to blame because they didn't know what they were doing to the planet.
But they still did it though, didn't they?
And they know now, and they still haven't changed, have
Exactly.
Yeah, but what do you expect them to do now?
I don't know.
I mean, most people recycle, including the elderly. So what else do you want them to do?
Well, convert to better alternatives. Why don't they all have solar panels on their roofs?
Right, because it's expensive. Not everyone can afford it. I'm sure most people do have solar panels.
In the end,
if
it'll
they
be
can afford
cheaper, wouldn't it? It's more.
Yeah,
it's
long
cheaper.
term it's cheaper.
Yeah, long term.
They pay for themselves, but where do you get the money originally? If you don't have money to feed your children, you're not going to invest in solar panels, which are going to pay for themselves over 5 years.
Yeah, that's a very specific type of people, isn't it? It's not like the entire
But
population.
my point is that they can't really do much more than buying solar panels and recycling. What else can they do?
But don't you think they might also have the mindset of, it's not our problem, we won't live that long?
Well, some of them obviously do, because there's some people our age who think that. But not all of them are the same. Not all of them think, well, I'll be dead soon, I don't really care. Obviously, some people have grandkids, children that they care about who will be living long after they do.
So the UN says that if we warm by 1.5 to 2 degrees by the end of this decade, we should be all right, but the problem is the rate. So right now, we're on track to warm by 1.5 degrees in 10 years, and if we don't slow this down, it could mean catastrophe. Isaac, should governments be introducing harsher emissions laws to cap big companies?
I think yes and no, because if you introduce higher laws, then they might just move to other countries and do the same there.
Not our problem. Not our problem.
Yeah, but
it is though, because it's our planet as well.
Yeah. If we just do it as England, they will then say move to America, do the same there, and we lose out on money which
Got to
they
set an
bring
example,
in.
you know. If one people do it,
So what you're saying is
another,
that
another.
the whole world should follow by this rule.
If the whole world followed it, then yes, it would work.
So
Yeah, but
it's
that's
something
not-
that the
it's not gonna
UN
happen,
should
though.
introduce rather than particular governments.
Potentially, yeah.
Right,
So-
yeah, because otherwise one country's
Yeah,
economy
everyone
will
would just-
suffer and the rest will just
But that's
skyrocket.
very hard to do, considering countries like India and China are already refusing to do such a thing.
Is there a middle ground where companies and economies can prosper at the same time as taking care of our planet?
I think that if we come to a good compromise between companies and countries, then we can come together and save our climate. But it's the fact that that compromise might take years, decades to make, which we don't have.
Yeah, many countries such as India and Morocco and Gambia are making progress and have like huge renewable energy projects. Do you think more countries should be hopping onto that boat?
Yeah, I think they do, but also some countries might have difficulties. So we need to help those countries which can't access that yet and help them come to our level and all use renewable energy resources.
But then that's harder than it sounds, because some people say, well, we should focus on England before we think of everyone else. And if everyone thinks like that, then this is never going to be solved. So how do we get past it?
That is the problem. That's why it's not being solved.
Well, global population has tripled in the last 72 years. It's now an all-time high of 7.8 billion people.
No, I think that China's one-child system is being employed in like loads of different countries.
I don't think it's right. I think it's a horrible thing to do.
Yeah.
But in this,
what else can you do?
Exactly. You can't just.
In all honesty, I think limiting the amount of children that you can have is the worst option to prevent climate change. That's just
you need
ridiculous.
You need less people.
So governments should just make contraception more accessible.
Yeah, but it's not even about not having kids. It's about finding other ways other than not having kids to prevent climate change.
Yeah, but
I don't think children are our main issue.
The more
Yeah.
population the more population there is, the more energy that will be
The
required.
more food, the more
Yeah,
cars.
but then there's ethical issues. Is it right to tell people that you can only have
Of
a
course it's
maximum
not.
of one
Well,
child?
it's obviously not, but there's nothing you can really do about it. If the government puts it in place, what are you going to do?
Last week we had the opportunity to ask our Head of Student Services, Jude Payne, a question which gave us a bit more knowledge about climate anxiety. Insulate Britain has been in the news recently for their protests, which are blocking the roads, which in turn stops ambulances and other emergency services. How do you feel about this, and do you think they should go about it in a different way?
I think it's really important for people's voices to be heard, and I think protests are important in gathering people together as well, but I do think that we do need to think about the safety as well, because most people, if they're coming together to protest, are doing it for the greater good, so they need to consider that within their kind of the remit of why they're protesting and what they're going to do. Whether it tips into breaking the law, then I don't think that's a good thing.
Now this is our fact or fiction segment where I read out today's headlines and you've got to decide whether they're fact or fiction. So are you ready for our first one?
Let's
Yes.
go. Yeah.
In 2020 alone, more than 750 endangered species were lost due to wildfires. True or false?
True.
True.
That's 100%. Because was it Australia?
Think of all the fires in Australia.
The amount of times that it was in the news that we're losing more and more animals, it's got to be, surely.
Right at the
I
start
mean,
of 2020
the only
as well.
reason that it might be false is if it's more.
It's actually false. In 2020, there was only 130 species which were lost to wildfires.
Still.
Yeah, that
It's
makes
a very
sense.
large amount.
Species. I was thinking more number of animals.
Okay, that would be in the thousands of hundreds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but 130
Hundreds of
species.
thousands.
That's quite a bit.
Exactly.
Question 2. The Australian wildfires caused over 24,500 people to lose their homes. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
Fiction.
I'd say fiction. I reckon it was how many did you say?
24,500.
I'm
Unless
going
you-
to say it was less than that, to be honest.
Unless
'cause
you
I
live in a
think
forest, then
where
yeah.
the fires were, there weren't many houses. I know there was a couple, but
Just a couple of houses
well, no,
in
no,
the
not
forest.
literally
two
a
houses.
couple. But I'm not sure there was that many.
So what's your final answer, please?
Fiction.
False. I'd say that's fact.
Joel?
False. Yeah, false.
So we're going with fiction. It's fiction.
Exactly.
Oh,
Easy.
There was only 10,300 homes lost.
Wow.
I'm so good.
it is quite saddening that we say there were only 10,000
That's
homes.
still Yeah, I know,
That's
but
very
it's-
large
it's an
number.
improvement
It's
from the
still
first
a
figure.
very
Not the most
saddening
empathetic kind of people, are we?
statistic.
It's a shame that anyone lost their houses.
Exactly.
To be honest.
There we go.
Question 3. 11% of all global greenhouse emissions caused by humans are due to deforestation.
True.
I think it's more than that.
Oh,
I think that's about right. 11%.
Really? I'm going to say true, but I don't think that's going to agree with
yeah,
me.
I'd say true.
So you're saying
That's-
true?
If it's false, then it's got to be more.
Mm.
It's true.
Yes.
That is actually not as much as I was thinking, to be honest.
Not as much. I thought it'd be more than that.
Yeah, exactly. I thought
Oh.
it was going to be...
Yeah, but if you think of all emissions ever,
Well, yeah,
Yeah, but then-
deforestation is a
But then
very
they say
large
that
part.
chopping down trees is the worst thing.
Yeah,
yeah,
because
because
also
it,
it's
because
holding
it
all the
releases carbon. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, like, they're taking in carbon and releasing O2.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
Question 4. Average global temperatures in 2020 were 0.98 degrees Celsius warmer than the 20th century average. Fact or fiction?
Fiction.
Fiction.
It's over.
Because I've actually got some on my paper.
Yeah, I saw we talked about this earlier as well. We brought that up earlier.
All right, I shall go with fiction.
It's fact.
What?
Oh. No. We'll forget what I said then.
You got it from Wikipedia then.
Question 5. Austria has set out plans to be completely carbon neutral by 2024 using HEP as its major green resource.
What's HEP?
Hydroelectric power.
What does that mean?
It's like dams and the
Like-
turbines in the dam.
Yeah.
Dams.
Oh, like dams in the sea. That'd be such a
in the
sick
sea.
idea.
Great idea.
Let's not go on this one.
One of the best we've had in years, wasn't it, Sam?
Fact or fiction?
I'm gonna.
I'd say true.
Hmm.
I mean, I think it's
Um,
a bit unrealistic.
seeing as
but-
Austria is landlocked, I'm gonna go with fiction.
Yeah, but hydroelectric isn't just sea.
It's rivers.
Yeah, but most of the time it's sea because of the waves.
What are you going with, Joel?
Facts. I'm going facts.
Right, let's talk about it because some of our listeners might not know.
Hydroelectric power is a dam which is built in a river so that water can be let through at certain times, spin turbines and produce electricity.
So it's
Perfect.
like paddles that spin round as the
Yeah,
water flows through.
turbines.
Right, yeah.
I'm gonna say false.
So basically, it's a clean way of making electricity.
And carbon
Ah.
neutral means that it's taking in the same amount that it's producing. So it's taking in the same amount of CO2 that it's producing.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna say
Perfect.
false then.
I was going to say true, but now that you've just reminded me that it's a landlocked country, I'm going to say false.
Yeah, I'm going
It's
fiction.
false. However,
Last minute.
there is a small town in Germany, which is carbon neutral completely because they don't allow cars in it at all. They are completely solar panel. They walk everywhere. They have bikes. So that's completely carbon neutral.
That's horrendous.
Mm. But
That's
ma-
good.
many
It's a
countries,
good thing, but-
many countries and cities are doing that. Like London has the ultra low emission zone, which just means that you can't go into the city centre unless your car is like a certain standard. But if it's not, you can just pay to get in.
Question 6. 800,000 hectares of wildlife is lost every year.
Hectares.
What measurement is a hectare?
I don't think it's that big.
So 1 hectare is 10,000 square meters.
I think it's false then because it's got to be more, surely.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah, 800
Large
times
area.
10,000.
Yeah. With regards to the world,
Of
Yeah,
wildlife,
800,000.
is that wildlife as in just anything that is living,
animals,
like
mate.
trees.
Trees,
Yeah.
bushes, animals, so on and so on.
800,000 hectares. That's a bit too extreme.
Is
Yeah.
this in the whole world or is this in a certain
Whole
area?
world.
I don't think that's true.
No,
Wait,
I
how
don't
long is
either.
it? Is it every year?
Every year.
Yeah, no, I think that's fiction.
I'm gonna say true actually.
Fiction, fact, and
I'm gonna go fiction.
it's fact. Joel, you are correct.
That is
First one.
very depressing.
1 for 6. Let's go.
Well, it is depressing, but I was thinking it would be more, so it's positive for me.
But then that is still a
Wouldn't call it
very
positive,
large
Sam.
amount.
No,
Would not
but
call it a
it's
positive.
better
There's-
because I was thinking it was more.
189 countries have ratified the 2015 Paris Agreement. Do you guys know about the Paris Agreement?
No.
Yeah. Donald Trump pulled out.
Go on, educate.
World leaders came together in 2019 to sign the Paris Agreement, pledging to cap temperature rises by a maximum of 2 degrees by 2100. Many countries set their own targets to reduce CO2 emissions, but many, such as America, Donald Trump, pulled out, and others such as China and Russia are being accused of not setting ambitious targets, and we're still seeing an increase in emissions.
So, now that you know about it, do you think that it is true or false?
I think that's false. I think it's less.
Do you know what ratified means,
Not
Joel?
particularly. No, not gonna lie to you. Either, guys.
189 countries have signed the Paris Agreement.
I'd say true.
I'd say false.
Fiction.
It is fact.
Hey!
Fact.
Let's go.
We've been outdone by the sea dam, man.
Speak for yourself.
The last question today, unfortunately. America has currently accumulated 48% of greenhouse emissions.
I
America?
don't think it's that much.
America alone.
I don't think it's that much.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's more.
I think it's false.
79%.
Wait, 79%?
48%.
I'm
Alright.
saying 79%.
I don't know, because there's China, who's a mass producer.
48.6.
India, also a mass producer. Russia, not as big, but still a big one. I reckon it could be true. All right, I'll go fact.
I'll go fact as well, actually.
Fiction.
So the overwhelming answer is fact. It is
It's stupid.
fiction.
What? Oh,
Hey!
what is it then?
Let's go!
In 2019, China is estimated to have emitted 27% of world emissions, followed by the United States with 11%. Then India with 6.6%.
Those are the. Where's Russia on there?
Apparently, it's not a contender really.
It's only because it has
In
like, a really high
total, the United
population.
States has emitted 410 billion metric tons, more than any other country.
And that is the end of our fact or fiction segment.
So going into our interview part of the podcast, we're here with Adrian. Adrian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Adrian Smith. I'm the course manager for the Creative Media Production course at Strode.
So kicking it off with the first question, are you anxious about the climate?
I am, yeah, pretty anxious, yeah, definitely. It does seem like it's all got a bit out of control, and it seems like it might be a little bit too late to do anything. So yeah, that makes me quite anxious.
Do you not have a mindset that like you'll be gone before it makes any change to you?
That's a good one. We'll all be dead before it happens, but some people are going to be alive when it happens, and that's worrying. And I think, you know, when you have children, it changes things a bit. So
Do you think that we should be worried?
I think you should be worried, but I think you should try and turn that worry into some sort of action.
So do you think we can actually do something about it and change?
Yeah, I think you can.
So what do you do?
I'm not fully vegan, but I do try and eat responsibly, and I recycle, and I cycle to work as well, which isn't recycling, that's cycling.
Yeah. So do you think individual things such as that actually make a difference?
Well, I think if everybody did something, then yeah. I think if the vast majority of people don't bother because they think that there's no point, because one little person can't make much difference, then no. But if everybody did something, then it would work, wouldn't it, I guess?
Mm. So we're in this mess, but who do you think is responsible? Can it be pinpointed to maybe a country or a government, or have we all participated?
Well, I don't think, personally, I don't think we are, you are responsible. I don't think I'm responsible. I don't think people can hold themselves responsible. I think big companies, big corporate companies, businesses, huge global companies are responsible. They're the ones that try and blame us. That's my personal opinion, is that we're always told, well, the consumer wants it, so it's their consumer's fault.
Do you blame the older generation?
Not really. I don't think it's the people's fault. I don't think just because an older generation may have used a lot more coal, for instance, and a lot of people would have been working down coal mines in the recent past. It's not their fault as such. It was just that was the situation they were in. That's how they grew up, and now we're in the situation we're in now. We've got a lot more educated about it, and we've got a lot more information, haven't we?
So what about countries such as China and India, which now have the knowledge of climate change but still don't change?
It's tricky, isn't it? It's all about money. I think it's all about money, basically. It's the big global companies, the countries that are trying to get ahead, and it works all the way through down the line. If you try and change something, somebody always puts their hand up and says, well, actually, that's going to cost us money, so we can't do it. And that happens at all levels, I think. And that's what we've got to try and change.
So do you think government should be doing more?
Definitely. I think they're the only people that can. I think they're the only people that have got any real power. I think we can all do our bit, and we can recycle, and we can eat healthy, and we can stop buying certain foods that are known to be bad for the environment, perhaps. But ultimately, it's governments that are going to make the changes, definitely.
Do you think that we should tackle climate anxiety or global warming first?
I don't know which one's first. I think you've got to tackle both at the same time, really. You've got to help people with their anxiety over a real situation, for sure, and you've got to come up with some solutions to help you deal with that on a personal level, So my advice to people would be to do something to make sure that you feel like you're doing all that you can. I'm not saying you need to drop everything and go off and work for Greenpeace and stop people from whaling, or you don't have to go and do something extreme, but you can do something in your everyday life that will help, and it might make you feel better about things.
I personally hadn't heard of climate anxiety before doing the research. So do you think that the government should be doing more to raise awareness about it?
I think so, yeah. It definitely good point, actually. In education, we've had a lot more in education to do with awareness of the climate and the climate crisis. But the problem is, I suppose, now that these younger people are coming through school who have got all this information, but nobody's giving them any real kind of solutions, and nobody's giving them any hope. So dealing with this new anxiety is going to be a big deal.
We're going to be moving to electric cars soon, but then that brings up another problem of where's all the batteries going to go after they're put in dumps. So that is going to affect the environment. Do you reckon because there's just going to be more and more problems like that with everything, so do you reckon we'll ever get out of this? Do you reckon it is preventable?
I've got no idea, really. I think I've heard that electric cars are great, and then other people say, yeah, but it costs money to make the electricity, obviously, and then the batteries need to be disposed of, and all of that sort of side of it. I mean, you look around the room now, and we've probably all got smartphones. Pretty much everything we own in technology is an issue, or going to cause an issue. We've all bought into this, haven't we? So it's a really tricky one, isn't it? But I think that technology will be the solution.
Last question. The United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warned us in 2018 that we only have about 12 more years before it's gone too far. Why do you think it's now only 3, almost 4 years later, that people are starting to act on it? Like it's become a more talked about subject now?
God, well, I think it's to do with money again. I think that people have got other things on their mind. The governments have got other more pressing issues, and the thing is with the environment, it's always been that issue that could wait. They could always put it to the back of their minds for a little bit. It's going to happen in 50 years, 100 years. There's been different scientific studies done that have come out with all sorts of different ranges of different outcomes. So some scientific studies have said it's all a hoax, it's just natural. Other scientific studies have come back and said we've only got 50 years left. So the information has been conflicting, and they have used that information conflict to justify inaction, really. I think the governments have just said, well, we're not going to do anything because it's not really clear yet. And now they've all had to admit now that it is pretty clear, and a lot of people are pointing at governments now and saying you need to do something now, and that's why they're doing it. And governments really only do something if it's a vote winner, and if people want it, then they'll do it. And maybe that's something we can all do, is put pressure on the government to make changes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for your time, Adrian.
That's okay.
Thank you very much for listening. This has been a Strode Creative Media student podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
You've been listening to a Strode Media production.